That's one of the things. I keep forgetting this. I feel bad. I keep forgetting that sort of stuff. How are you doing? Today I am looking through streaming from a technical lens so that hopefully, with the whole HoloLive EN thing happening, I was thinking now would be a good time to get this whole presentation thing out there. That way, people that would want to but haven't figured out a way to start just can start streaming and eventually do that. Oh my gosh! Thank you for the 50 bits. I'm surprised it doesn't show up on the chat log, but thank you. I appreciate it. I don't think I have my thing playing for bits, but you know, it's okay. The heart's all that matters, really. Anyway, so streaming from a technical standpoint, where is that here? First, there's a few hardware and software recommendations that you need to take account of before you can stream, because your hardware has to be up to snuff, relatively speaking, to be able to stream things. I don't typically... What was that? That's odd. I don't typically talk about, you're now number one. Thank you so much. I don't typically really want to say what you can't go up to, because you can go up to, like, really, really high settings. So I really want to just talk about the minimum stuff that you would want to have before you start trying to stream. For instance, an Intel i5 processor or greater. Around an i5 or an i7 is a good place to start so that your CPU can handle everything you're going to need for streaming. But I think an i7 would be more recommended. Because I think there's a ghost in my house. All these little things are moving inside my room, and I'm just like, I can't find them. I can't see them. The door just moved for no reason. I keep forgetting that this thing wants to time me out. I'm so sorry. I'll have to fix that later. Anyway, first off, you want your computer to have a webcam, because external webcams aren't usually the best. So you're going to want your computer case to have a webcam whenever it comes to it. That way you're able to capture your face or avatar or whatever whenever you are streaming. This way everyone has a face to connect to while you're on your stream instead of looking just at the game itself. they do have a person to connect to that content. Oh, this person has this content, or this person has the other content. Things like a microphone or a good headset is also recommended. I personally have Beats headphones in there, and they're relatively standard. It's a decent enough mic. But honestly, I'd say you can go for a better one. Things like those Yeti microphones. Not like. Although I have a recommendation for a microphone, don't get USB ones. USB is bad at converting audio. Get one of the aux cables. Those are much better for it. I know most people usually have aux cable anyway, but just in case they have a USB one is lying around, I wouldn't suggest using it. An NVIDIA GeForce GTX card is one of the minimum standard. These are like the generic basic ones you can find at any gaming laptop or computer. But I would recommend a video card that has a GPU. Now, a GPU is a graphical processing unit. This essentially takes the graphical capabilities and takes the work off of your CPU itself. Since your CPU isn't doing as much work, it'll allow you to A, stream better, and B, let your CPU do other things. Say, for instance, if you have an external program that you have a model on, you wouldn't want too much CPU usage. So yeah, a GPU is definitely recommended for streaming. 8 gigabytes of RAM is what I would say would be the least amount of RAM you'd want, but 16 would be recommended. Just because you're probably going to be gaming on stream. You're most likely going to have a ton of things on screen at one time. Having not enough RAM and having a computer crash would be really hard to deal with. Plus, with more RAM, you probably lag less. Therefore, RAM would be a very decent idea to prioritize in your computer. You also have you want at least 500 gigabytes of storage. A terabyte is something you would want more likely, but 500 gigabytes of storage is the way to start. Now, you can use hard disk drives or solid state drives, but I'd recommend a solid state drive. Since hard disk drives are used to run code as well, they're typically much slower than a solid state drive, but solid state drive is usually more expensive per gigabyte. For instance, for something like the same price of a 500 gigabyte SD card, you can get a terabyte or 2 terabytes for an HDD card. For a hard disk drive. So yeah, my personal recommendation would be a solid state drive for any gaming computer, but hard disk drives work too. I mean, that's the one I use just because it has more space. To test the components, you want to go to a website called benchmark.com before you buy them, because they give you the relative score of each component, as well as you can compare them with other ones, so you can see what they're good at, what they're bad at. And yeah, it's a really good site. I recommend it. Just, I guess, use ad blocker because it has some ads on it, and you don't know if there's like malicious malware and stuff on those ads. So yeah, you have an ad blocker while running it, but it's a really good program and a really good site to use for checking out hardware and seeing what you essentially have to do to get your computer up to snuff. Ultra Leap is recommended. So if you're doing this thing for like VTubing stuff, an Ultra Leap controller is essentially one of those controllers that allows you to move your hands and have the VTuber thing move your hands on it. Now, I don't have this, as you can see, because I'm putting my I'm putting my hands, my chest, and it's not moving. So, but it would lead to a more expressive VTuber as well. I mean, if you don't have a model, you don't have to worry about this at all, because of course, Ultra would essentially be tracking. You don't need to track your hands, and hands are already on screen. You know what I mean? Next up would be the streaming software. OBS with live plugin, so for stream elements, you can usually get it on. It'll be very useful. It makes for setting up overlays and bots much easier. It's absolutely great. I recommend it because that's the one I've been using a lot more, and it's one of the 2 more popular ones. You usually get it off of Stream Elements. This allows you to set up bots or donations and stuff as well. It makes it pretty easy to make overlays on your stream. Now, there's another one that's also relatively popular that I have seen in many places and I've used myself quite a bit. And that would be Streamlabs OBS. Do not use Streamlabs OBS. There are too many bugs. I apologize for anyone that is using this service. It does its job, but gosh, there are too many bugs I've experienced on my own time to recommend it. For example, none of your VODs having audio was a bug that I have come across quite a bit using this one. What would it be? I'm trying to think of other ones that are at the top of my head. I had like 3 examples, but I don't have them on the top of my head at the moment. Yeah. One more is essentially your game sometimes not working properly. I don't know why it does this, but sometimes it doesn't capture games correctly, and it's kind of stumbled whenever it like sometimes when I change do certain games. Like it happened with Genshin Impact for me. But honestly, I just don't think there are enough reasons to use Streamlabs over OBS Live plugin itself. Plus, Streamlabs uses more CPU. So again, it takes the strain off the CPU. You're able to do more things in streaming. Obviously, that would probably make OBS with the .live plugin the better option. So I'd recommend Stream Elements far over Streamlabs OBS. Softer recommendations for those who are in the quick and easy camp or the not so moneyful camp. VRoid Studio, online or on Steam. Now, you can get it in 2 places. The website itself, which is why I went on live, you have their own website where you can download the thing itself. Or they recently put it on Steam. Now, the reason you'd want it on Steam is auto updates. With the website, you have to download it over and over and over again, and it would be so annoying and sometimes hard to keep track of. Steam does that all for you. It'll auto-update the site, you'll be able to keep your things, but it will keep every update that is available to you. It'll put it on there immediately, essentially. Well, I mean, you still have to, of course, download it. But it will tell you, hey, there's an update, instead of you having to guess, essentially. VC Face, which is the one that I am using at the moment. VC Face is essentially a VTuber software type program that allows you to have your avatar and move with it. It's really fun to use, and it's a robust program. It started off not that great, but at this point, it's got similar to better quality to things like Wakaru, which is one of the mainly used free VTuber programs that are strutted around these year parts. and it's consistently getting updated, and it just keeps getting better. Recently, they've added their own CSF avatars, so you're able to add animations and stuff as well while using Unity. It looks really cool, and now possibilities have opened up for a ton of VC-faced users that I think makes the program worth it. And it's still totally 100% free. So I'd say get it while it's like that. Now there's some more I want for some that are a little more experienced and have some more investment they can put into their whole playbook. First off would be Vroid Studio, still free, or I made a mistake. No, I meant VC Face, not Vroid Studio. For that. So, VC Face and Luppet have an alright amount of... I keep feeling bad for the bot. I have two bots competing against each other, and it's like, nah. Need to fix that one up. So, Vroid Studio or Luppet. Essentially, Vroid Studio... not Vroid Studio. VC Face is the free one I just talked about earlier. Luppet is the paid version that a lot of other professionals use. Now it's 6,000 yen in, of course, our Japanese currency. But if we swoop it over to the United States, which is where most of the people are here for, and anyone that usually watches my streams would be able to convert from, it would be $57.17 USD. And I'd also recommend the Ultra Loop controller, again, for more investment of the viewers and more expressive avatars as a whole. But again, if you don't use V avatars and stuff, you don't need to do this. Another one would be a Mirrorbox capture card or an Elgato capture built into the computer to capture console games. The reason I say for Elgato to be built into your computer is because the Elgato capture cards have this weird flaw when it's outside the computer. It usually has about 3 seconds of input delay on any given game. So any commentary will most likely be 3 seconds behind. Or they have to look at their stream, in which case they're playing 3 seconds behind what the game is actually doing. So any potential things like fighting games and stuff are an absolute no-go when it comes to an Elgato capture card outside your computer. If it's built into the graphics card itself, it's usually fine, as far as I have heard. But they are really expensive, yet the mirror boxes are usually not as expensive. I got my own for like $50 and it has like a few frames of lag. Still not perfect for things like fighting games and stuff, but it's much better than 3 seconds. So yeah, I'd say get the Mirrorbox capture card, but hey, this one's all up to you. Next thing would be an HDMI splitter with several HDMI cords. Now, the thing about the Mirrorbox and the Elgato is that you're going to want them put... If you don't have a HDMI splitter, you're only going to be able to connect it to the computer, which will again inherently cause lag. Of course, for the Elgato one, 3 seconds. But if you have the HDMI splitter, with the capture card, you're able to connect it to your console, and then connect that to the HDMI splitter input, which will have 2 output ports. You can then connect one of them to the capture card, and then connect another HDMI from the capture card to the computer, and then you can connect another one from the HDMI splitter to the TV. This way, there's barely any lag on your TV screen, and it goes almost as instantly as if it was just one HDMI port, which makes it much easier to use. So much easier, and I'd highly recommend anyone use it. Like, you can get them relatively cheap for like 20-ish bucks. And I say it's a good whole I guess, aspect to the world of streaming. Because this way you're able to stream not only computer games, but console games as well, if you already have some for free and you don't have to re-buy them on the computer. So I'd say overall this is relatively cheaper if you're just kind of, if you were a console gamer and wanted to stream, this is what I do. Now, do you need a VTuber model? Because again, this is all focused more on the whole EN stuff, the additions that are coming out. The answer is no. You do not need a model for VTubing. They will supply you with a model if you actually get this audition. If you get the whole thing, they will supply you with a model, and they'll supply you with one of their models. They make the model. No matter who you are, they make the personal model for you. Now you have to keep this in mind, because if you do somehow want to leave said Hololive vicinity, you cannot keep the model, as far as I know. Apparently they've been nice about it in the past, according to a few answers that I've looked up before, but take it with a grain of salt, and I'd say you can't keep the model. Setting up OBS itself, there's a few things you have to keep in mind. Scenes and sources and how they differ. Scenes and sources are two separate things. Scenes are essentially what happens when... How do I put this? Scenes are what you put sources in. Scenes are what you would put sources into. And you would click through the scenes to go through different things. For example, a just chatting thing would have a transition in between two different scenes compared to a gaming one. Yet, the sources is what you're seeing there. My VTuber avatar thing is a source. The PowerPoint that's showing on screen right now would also be a source. All of it is 100% a source. That's it. Make sure you have stable internet and have a good internet speed, which should be tested on speedtest.net, and that not many other Wi-Fi devices are running before the stream. These are important because a good internet speed and not having people eating up your bandwidth is a great way to ensure that your stream goes relatively well and not very scuffed. Now, there's typically going to be some problems that happen with a stream. It just kind of happens. It happens to professionals, it happens to the indies. It's just that the indies usually typically have it more. Here, we're trying to let you avoid a lot of those issues, but it still comes to the fact that the issues are probably going to happen no matter who you are. So just be careful. Better have Ethernet set up. Better have the thing plugged into your computer. I'd recommend something like a Cat5e or a Cat6 network cable for that, because those are the ones that are usually compatible with most routers and give you the quickest speed. Now, things for Cat5e, you essentially can run those for like miles on end, but for a Cat6 cable, you can only have them up to 125 feet? 125 feet. But they are typically faster. So there's a downside and a plus side to everything. Plus, longer network cables usually means worse internet, technically, when it comes to an Ethernet setup. So you want to have it to be relatively short, but not, too short so you just have to be uncomfortable while streaming. You want to check all programs and equipment an hour before stream. This way you can try to resolve any problems that are happening before the stream itself starts up. I'd say an hour. I don't know how everyone else does it, but my main rule is usually check an hour before. Just so that the world doesn't crumble from under you somehow. Make sure your titles, games, and tags are set on Stream Manager, since you are using OBS with the OBS Live plugin and not... oh, that's the next one. My bad. and not Streamlabs, like a good little boy, you need to make sure that the title and games and tags are set on Stream Manager for Twitch. Now, if you don't know what Stream Manager is, I will switch over to that right now. And then this would be Stream Manager. You're able to edit the info of your stream over here. You're able to clip things. You can run like 60-second breaks. We can raid channels. It's all great. This will be important. This stuff will be relatively important to you. Trying to figure out if it's a good reason. I say like a good way to edit streams, because then you can just check the stuff. Add some tags if you really want to, like radio or mixed reality or stuff like that. And you're able to customize the notifications in your titles. It's an important thing. It's an important thing to keep in mind. Now, for setting up OBS itself, I do have a few tips for that as well, but for it, we're going to have to leave our comforts of a home and go into the one thing we don't want to go into, doing things. Here's my OBS setup. It's not the best or anywhere near impressive, but it's still my own thing. When I first thought about this stuff, I had the Among Us gameplay. But here I have different scenes for certain things. For instance, when I press the stream start one, it fades to the stream start overlay. When it goes to gameplay, it's gameplay, be right back, goodbye, all that stuff. You're able to not only add scenes, but you can also add sources to each scene. They do not carry over to each other. I just want to make sure all that is known. So the more important sources you'll be dealing with are gameplay sources, which are able to capture specific games. I usually have them on specific window captures so that nothing usually messes up. You can turn things off, like you can use an anti-cheat compatibility hook. You can turn off capture cursor, which is the one I usually do. Well, there's that. Game ones are important. Browsers are also important for collabs. For instance, if you want just a Discord, like a Discord sidebar happening, you are able to put in a certain link to streamkit.discord.com, which if you don't know what that is, we can switch back over to Google to show you. Okay, why is this not showing the mouse? That's upsetting. Here we go. So Streamlabs not No. So StreamKit, not Streamlabs. StreamKit.discord overlay would essentially be how do I put it? It would be the way you're able to get voice widgets and stuff on your stream. You can put them into a browser source and plug in the stuff over there. 1 second. There we go. And the whole thing's streaming there too. Good. Just want to make sure everything was all settled. All right. So you can check your voice widget, and you can see over here that that there are servers and voice channels that you can check out. You can change channel sizes and such. You you're able to choose which server and voice channel you want the call out to be in. Now, people are going to have to enter this specific Discord so that you can put it into your browser settings so that you're able to show the Discord channel speaking on stream. Now, if you want to go the extra mile, you can use this. Now, Jin made an amazing thing where he's able to use reactive images to generate code for specific people on speaking and on not speaking. All you need to input is the Discord user ID of the person that would be speaking, their non-speaking image URL, which would be in their speaking image URL. Now you have to keep in mind, you would have to have a image. What's good? See where VTuber tech I'm gonna steal? It's not too secret, but I'm just trying to show good people what good. How you doing, Okami? I'm gonna make my Muppet debut. Watch. I don't. Be honest, I wouldn't doubt that. In any event, be quiet. In any event, you would want to use this in Discord, a non-expanded image, and in a Discord channel you could easily have access to. Dandy, you're here too! Hello and welcome! Yes, you would want to have this in like a Discord channel that would not be that would have non-expanded image, because if you do it for the expanded image, it will not work. It has to be unexpanded, and it has to be in a channel you have easy access to, just in case something goes wrong. Then you just press generate, copy this whole code, and then we would put that code into here. Into this area. And make sure the height and width match the picture that was being shown, otherwise it won't show the picture. And then you should be good. In any event, what else do we have? Ah, right. So those are like the big main things about the main two sources you'll be using, which I'll talk about more later on during a troubleshooting section. But for now, the last thing I want to show you in this lovely program is the settings. Settings are relatively important because they can help you essentially fix anything that would be going wrong that your computer can't really handle. For instance, your output. My bitrate automatically enables to 1,398 because that's what my computer can handle. Not sure why it can't handle anything more, but it's just what it can do. I think it's just my graphics card itself. There are a few other things here. For instance, certain desktop audios, which allows you to access a few different things, including things like isolating Discord from your default desktop audio in and of itself, or things like capture cards. What else would be important? Recording. If you want to record your videos as well as stream them, they send them to specific points in your computer. Hotkeys, just in case you need to enable those so you can just quickly start up and stop your stream. It can be really good, honestly. Or if you need to like stop and start a recording like instantaneously, it's awesome. We'll probably talk about this more also in the troubleshooting section for streaming in and of itself. But for now, we can go back into the you can go right back into the PowerPoint. Okay. Speaking of the troubleshooting section, there's a bit of troubleshooting advice that can be had for relatively more, recent, more recent or general problems that most people will have during a stream. Things like making sure your laptop or computer is plugged in. If you have a laptop, this is especially important because your computer will probably die when playing games on battery. They don't typically have very long battery lives, so obviously keeping it plugged in would be relatively important. For a computer, there are usually things, if you're relatively smart and have this in here, you have uninterruptible power supplies, which are essentially battery backups in your computer if your power goes out. You're probably going to have your computer plugged in anyway, but it can run on this if the power goes out and something goes wrong and you have to end stream relatively quickly. Then again, if the power goes out, your internet probably won't be on, in which case, have a hotspot just in case. Make sure you are connected to Ethernet. Again, this is important. Ethernet is important. You all have to have Ethernet in your computers, or else your stream may just die. Honestly, I just think it's something I've barely been able to live without an Ethernet cord, and it's been a much better time ever since I actually got one when I first started this streaming. But yeah, Ethernet cords are important. Close any programs unrelated to the stream itself. Oh, I see Dandy agreeing 100%. Ethernet is just too... This man knows Ethernet's important. We've been on streams. We've been on streams on Wi-Fi and stuff. This man knows. Close any programs unrelated to the stream itself. This one will help for essentially freeing up your CPU, just in case anything goes particularly wrong and your stream is going slow. It could be a CPU problem, so closing programs that are unrelated to the stream itself may be important. Now for me, that's usually things like, I usually have Google, the game, OBS, and VC Face, because those are the main ones that I need for my stream. Get the cord or you get the sword, you right. But yeah, I usually have those 4 programs up. That way, I have as little problems going on these as possible. But even then, it may not be enough. In which case, you might have to just lower the resolution of the game itself. It could just be unimportant. Again, for people in chat, apologies for the pretzel rock spot thing doing that. I have 2 bots combating with themselves, and I need to fix it. And I need to fix that because Pretzel Rocks usually posts links, but my Nightbot doesn't like links because of the whole shenanigans that happen with links nowadays. So check Task Manager for active programs that don't show up on screen. If you don't know what Task Manager is, you can open it up right now. So then, get off this, go back to the display capture, and we can turn this on. We go into Task Manager. Here will show you background processes that are going on your computer. Now, you really don't want to turn off your turn off any of the background processes because they may be important. Don't turn these off, please. But things like, for example, the Discord stuff. Like, I don't need the Discord stuff open right now, so we can go in and then we can just collapse. We can just end the task, and then that will hopefully save up some space as well. Also stuff like Microsoft Edge. Why do I have 2 of these browsers open? I'll make 2 of these browsers open. Go out here, do that, close it out. You can see it's already making a huge difference in the processing itself. Be good for Nightbot, not for links. You should know not to press a link unless you know the person well. That's true. That's true. I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I'm worried about other people that don't know that just yet. That's the reason I had it off for posting links. Like, I'm worried for people who don't know that yet. In which case, I will inform them if they say something like that and goes wrong, to not do that. But just in case someone doesn't and they just click the link anyway, that would be a problem. I mean, it's not a visual problem now because I'm relatively small, but you know, that would be that may or may not be an issue. Anyway, back to PowerPoint things. Again, don't use Streamlabs. I've said it before, I've said it again. This is a not good program, and I hate it. I hate it with my guts because there's been too many glitches I've had that have messed me up in the past for streams, or VODs, or stuff like that. Don't use Streamlabs. Don't use Streamlabs. Don't use Streamlabs. I'm sorry. If you have any drop frames or stream lagging, which if you've had a careful eye, I've had myself, here's what you can do. Things, again, Ethernet. Ethernet, again, is super important. Use Ethernet. I've been on this before. Moving on. Make sure all the programs unrelated to stream are closed. This can also cause a lot of stream lagging, as well as like having the whole CPU problem happen, or crashing your CPU if it uses too much stuff. So again, make sure they're all closed out. Lower the resolution or frame rate of a game. This would be important because sometimes the game is just too strenuous for your thing to stream. In which case, you'd have to lower the resolution. Things like Muse Dash, which has unlimited frames per second. It can essentially go on for like 200, 100 frames per second, and it can lower frames tremendously. You have to go into the settings and turn it to 60 FPS, because that can mess up your stream big time, if you don't know about that sort of stuff. So yeah, Muse Dash is essentially a perfect example. Play a different game. The game may just not be good. Like, honestly, it may just not be good enough. Your computer may not be good enough, and you might just have to play something else. Or do something different. Honestly, I felt that, like, I've had a few of these moments myself. Things with a Genshin Impact. I've almost had to not stream before myself until I lowered the resolution. But I would have had to just play a different game. Because it's just too bad. I don't know. It sometimes just doesn't work out. There are requirements that they have for like games. If you don't have the recommended requirements, you should probably just not play it. Because the minimum requirements for a game sometimes just isn't enough. You can lower the bitrate or frame rate of the stream itself, which I think the next one is the thing. Yeah. So, lower the bitrate or frame rate of the stream itself. Sometimes it goes over the limit. And for example, there's a thing we'll show you later that'll show you what bit rates you should be going towards. I usually have my frame rate at 30 FPS as well to avoid dropped frames. But things like lower bitrate or frame rate of a stream is a good way to know, like, essentially how to so that you can avoid dropped frames. And if you don't remember how I did it earlier, it was by going into the settings and going into output. They had a bit frame meter which you can edit. They have a bit frame option which you can edit by yourself. According to Restream.io, the maximum resolution for 1080p with 60 frames is about, like, you would need an upload speed of like 6-7 megabits per second. Again, speed, what is it called? Speedtest.net. Amazing for this sort of thing. Because if you don't have that kind of stuff, you may just not be able to stream. Okay. Apologies about that. may just not be able to do it. For things like 30 to... Oh, I need to go back. For things like 30 to 60 FPS for 720, it'd be roughly 3 to 4. So that could be a good fallback plan if you can't do 1080p. Now for the bitrate differences. Here we have different resolutions. Of course, medium resolution, high resolution. They have HD 720 or HD 1080, which are the most likely ones you're going to want to stream at. Here are a few different, here are the bit rates. For medium, you want 800 to 120 kilobits per second. And for high, you want 1200 to 1500. Now, 1500 to 4000 is where you're going to probably land. You'd want to land, most likely. Like, it's not necessary to get to 1080p. But it's good, but not necessary. You don't usually want to, like, always go up to this. I am at, like, 1300, so I'm at a high resolution. Not, like, the best resolution, but high, and relatively close to the best resolution. So, I can stream at things like 720p just fine. But yeah, these are the bit rates. And keep in mind, that bit rate thing was measured in kilobits per second. It was measured in kilobits per second. So it's perfectly fine to be able to essentially look at this and check your bit rate and see which ones you go to. Like again, for instance, mine is on high. Here is a relatively decent look at how each frame rate works. So things like the 720 by 480, this would be the high definitions. This would be on like things like for DVD quality and stuff like that. To be fair, it's fine enough and good for your use. That's the one that I use at the moment. 1280 to 720 would be over here. HD to 1080p will be over here, and things like 4K I haven't even bothered with because most people don't have 4K, so I wouldn't bother streaming at that late. It would be too much, but if your computer can do it, hey, go for it. It's more options. If you can't get a source to appear on your stream, there are a few things you can do about that too. If the game capture isn't working, window capture may work. Now, that was the one I neglected to mention earlier, window capture. I have a display capture one on, but that's a last resort thing. Window capture is something like the Google one that I have over here. For instance, I have the capture method for Windows Graphics 10. For Windows Graphics Capture, which works for Windows 10. Now, Biddle works for Windows 7. If you do it here, it's not going to work very well, as you can see over there. So you'd want it to be Windows Graphics 10. And no, I don't want it on that one. I want it on this one because it's the right phone. Okay, there we go. And okay. There, perfect. So yeah, basically things like PowerPoint, things like your Googles and stuff like that will be found in Windows 1. But if you can't get a game to work on game capture, window capture is the next best idea. Like things like Guilty Gear Strive, not Guilty Gear Strive, XX plus R, I had to get on a Windows capture because it didn't work on game capture for me, for whatever reason. I am not positive as to why. Next one would be, yeah, okay. So the next one, I'm not showing the stream right now because I don't want to do it at the moment, but it would be filling the screen. Yeah, so here's what we could do here. Switching back to this, you can go over, and if you don't have a thing that's working, you can, let's show the Google one for instance. Actually, if we show the Google one, we can have this, and we can say we wanted to, where's the fit the screen? Yeah, transform, and then we can say fit to screen. This way, it fits 100% to the screen, and then you can edit it at will. This would be something that happens if you can't see it at all. Like if it's off the screen somewhere and you aren't able to access it. So essentially, you can fit it to screen and then move it back at will. That would be that's your essentially, that's my main option for like fixing those kind of issues. What else is there here? If that still doesn't work, the display capture that I've been using to show our OBS stream, because you can't really show OBS on the OBS thing itself, may just be your best bet. The program looks small on stream. You may need to increase the size of the source to accommodate it. So remember that thing I was doing when I was able to like essentially stretch that whole stretch the source to fit my program? That's something you may need to do if the program is very small on the stream. You might need to stretch out the source a lot to accommodate for it. Things like, what is it called? Ubisoft Connect may fall into this problem because they don't have their old games aspected correctly. Things like if your mic's not picking up on stream, there are a few ways to deal with that too. Make sure you don't have any pesky filters set up that'll make you too quiet. If you have a filter and it's just not working, you could just delete it. That's essentially my that's my main point there, because that's something that's happened to me as well myself. When I've learned that it was too loud, I tried to filter it only for people not to be able to hear me. It was odd, but I had to fix that kind of on the fly. Make sure your mic isn't muted, hardware or software. Now, a fun fact about a few different options when it comes to PCs. They don't have many hardware issues. I mean, not hardware issues. They don't have many, sometimes for the software for OBS, you can have your mic muted, like it was earlier in the stream for myself, and I had to fix it. But the problem is that you can also have a hardware microphone mute button as well. And you have to keep that in mind whenever you're streaming, if you have a more advanced mic. Now, myself, I don't have to worry about this, because I have a headset, and that doesn't have a mute button like that. But even then, it can be hard to detect these kind of problems, and you may need to rely on the audience to see it. So just make sure you have it. Just make sure you have that whole thing covered and settled. Have your mic and headphones plugged in. This one's relatively simple as heck, but it still can be a problem. Sometimes if your audio quality just isn't good, you may not have plugged in your microphone and thought you did by mistake. Trust me, it's happened to more people than I can count, even though it seems very obvious. Which it is very obvious. That's why they thought they did it already. It's so obvious that people just forget. So yeah, make sure that everything's plugged in and all set up before you start streaming. Which again is why we suggest, working on your stream setup for an hour. If things like notifications aren't showing up on stream, my main advice is to make sure the notification pop-up box is above all other sources. If it isn't, then it may not show up on the stream, like another one did before, but I forgot to talk about from beforehand. So, for instance, things like if your thing's below the PowerPoint one, then I won't be able to see things like the bits from before. So let me actually go and show this in an example instead of doing this dumbly. Here, and we can put on the display. So since this is over it, I can do the 50-bit one before. See that? It says it did 50 bits. Now what if it's underneath the one I have on right now? Well then, you can't see it, see? But if I put it over it, you can. This has been a contention for quite a few friends of mine, and it's easy to overlook, but it's really important to keep in mind. Eagle. Ooh, thank you for thinking things are cool. How are you doing today, Eagle? Where's the PowerPoint thing? Here it is. Excuse me, I'm getting thirsty. One thing is that your animation may just be extremely quick. Like, you think you heard something, you go to check and it's just not there. One thing it could be is that you've made your animation too fast, in which case, you just gotta lower it. Just gotta slow it down a little, that's all. Yeah, there's not much more to that one. So, like, it can happen. It's happened to me. It can happen to other people, don't worry. Possible that you've made your notifications invisible. So it is also possible that you may just not have seen your notification because you've made it so that this eyeball thing is turned off, so you can't see it. So you have to make sure that eyeball thing is on so that you're able to see the notification pop up. Reactive PNG collab setup issues. So that was the thing before that I described with the code generator and the Discord audio thing. Make sure the height and length matches the picture given. Sometimes the pictures are extremely big and you don't know until you see it. They have a essentially, like, on his tutorial, they have a amount you should have, things like, I think 1800 by 1800, just so that you can see what the pictures, essentially how long the pictures go. But no, there's like, if it's not big enough, it won't show up on stream, essentially. Simple as that. Which could be a major problem when you're, like, going on stream, in which case it's a thing that would work. The code only works with pictures not expanded and on Discord channels. So you can think. So one thing that I've done for myself to fix this issue is have two Discord channels, a personal one and a VTube one. I can send from my VTube to my personal Discord channel the pictures, so that way I'm able to just go through there, and it will always be up there, no matter what. Because both of my as long as I'm on Discord, both of those personal and VTuber-based Discord channels will always be up. So that's a decent setup to be able to use. If Discord isn't that loud, isn't loud enough, the possible solution would be to turn up the speaker or turn down the gain. So essentially, turning up this. So essentially, there's 200 and 100. Like, you can have them at 100%. But they might not be loud enough. You can turn them up to 200%, making them twice as loud. If that's not enough, you can also turn down the in-game sounds. So that way, it essentially makes it so that how do I put it? It essentially makes it so that the game is quieter and the voice is louder, so you can hear them over the game. Just make sure the game isn't too quiet so that you can't hear it. Because if the stream can't hear the game, that can also be a problem. Now, with all of this, are you confirmed to be able to get into the HoloLive thing and essentially do the application in and of itself? And the answer is no, you probably will not. I apologize. Why would that be? Because HoloLive is looking specifically for people in with experience as implied by their application. If I can go to Twitter real quick, and I'm not in much danger here because I can show the thing because I'm not applying to this thing anyway. Then we can go to the HoloLive audition. Go into the thing, and then application form here. They are looking. Where is the additional info. Is it the additional information? No. Nope. There it is. Here it is. So then we can, let's switch over to here. And wrong. There we go. So for our thing, we have a few problems when it comes to new streamers getting there. Main reason, these 3 questions. How long have you been doing game commentary? Tell us your experience as a live streamer. And the maximum viewers you had at one time. And tell us your experience in video creation. These all assume that you essentially have experience in the medium. With that in mind, it would be essentially hard for you to, it'd be very hard for you to be 100% new, get everything together, and just say none, and be accepted. They want someone that at least knows what they're doing, which is the main reason I'm giving you this information in the first place, so that everyone knows what they're doing while doing this. So then, the obvious question will then become, well, if I can't apply for the whole thing, for the Hololive EN thing, even with all the stuff you're telling me, what should I do? What should I do? How can I even do it? And I'm gonna put this right now, as one lovely Grim Reaper's apprentice had once said before in the past, make content. Streaming or doing YouTube is the only way to get experience in this kind of situation, and unlike other jobs, there's no experience acquired. This isn't like the loophole where you essentially are in an entire seamless void of being like, hey, you need to be experienced in the thing, but you need experience to get into the industry. No, you can just be indie and come in with 0 experience and then learn through things like tutorials like my own, tutorials that other people have posted, and just through getting experience. It's essentially that would basically be, the way to get the experience needed to do this. And keep in mind, this is coming from an EN idol. This is coming from someone that's already in Hololive EN. So it would be pretty good advice to get into it yourself. There are possible future opportunities that have been popping up. Things like Hololive Generation 3, because I need to go back. Things like Hololive Generation 3, because they're gonna have one. They're most likely going to have one. And you will probably be able to get into that as well. If you don't have experience now, there's there'll be another time when they want to add more people to Hololive. There's only Gen 2 for English, and they're possibly going to have a Gen 3. They're most likely going to. If not, there is the JCC, or the Jusagi Consultation Corporation. They are trying to make their own group that's as big as Hololive. And Jusagi himself is a pretty big channel at the moment. So, I would say you could aim for that as well. This one's probably also more open to more indie VTubers, but it still has similar contracts and stuff to Hololive Gen 3. They're going to be an entire their own business, so they want to make sure they have all the business stuff down pat. So they're going to have similar stuff to Hololive itself. That being said, there's a lot of people that are friends with the boss of the thing itself. There are a lot of people that are going to be friends with them. And basically, you'll most likely be a friend of Jusagi before opening the JCC. So if you do work for them, you have a connection to the boss that you don't with Hololive. You have that familial bond, essentially. Things like P plus as well, or no, V positive. I mean, not P positive. That's not bad. V positive is supposed to be a VTuber positivity thing made by Crooked Teeth, or a positivity VTuber. This guy essentially does interviews on different VTubers and try to spread positivity throughout a VTuber community. They are a really good thing to get into because they're starting to get a lot more influence in the community in and of itself. So they are someone to essentially watch out for. There are possibly many more opportunities as well that I haven't mentioned here that you can take this knowledge to, start streaming, and then apply to those other ones. Now, if you're looking for things like personality and marketing, I am not your person. I have gone to a business school. I have done stuff for like business in my classes for IT, but it is not, I am not the person. If you're looking for that kind of person, you can go over to this big googly head over here. Or if you don't know what this big googly head that's staring into your soul is, that would be Jusagi. Jusagi is a business person in the same league that I am an IT person, giving general business tips that most people don't really know and can generally help them in with stuff like streaming itself. They've already given massive tips on things like analytics videos, things like building your brand, and things like, how do I put it? And essentially finding your own advantage in a world that helps you separate yourself from other VTubers. So I would say go for it. Their videos are pretty well made, even if I know most of the advice they've already given anyway. Just through schooling stuff. And I guess that's it. That would be the end of the stream, and that would be the end of the tutorial. If you were on the stream or stuck around to the end, thank you so much for doing so. I want to say thank you to Prince Slanga for hosting me. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing to do, man. If you liked it or just watched the VOD, thank you as well. I'm glad that everyone's enjoying themselves. I hope everyone has a fantastic and wonderful day. And after this one, let me see if we can raid anybody. I'll try to do someone that's small. Oh, I see. Here's one. So, we're going to raid a person named the Tojo Dojo. Someone who's a big fan of the Yakuza series, and I am a big fan of their content. So, Dojo. Yep, that's how it's spelled. There we go. Alright, thank you guys so much for coming in and, being here, essentially. I will hopefully see you all later on. Adios!